Let's go to some baseball here. The Mets' joke of a season continues. They decide Kodai Senga's ready for the big leagues. He gives up 5 runs in the first inning, and the Reds are going for the sweep today, Joe, at 12:40 p.m. Eastern. I know the Mets are probably favored in this one, but why am I thinking that this is going the other way here today? Nick Lodolo will pitch. I know he hasn't been great for Cincinnati, but what's your confidence level, if at all, with the Mets?
If you can't score, you can't win games, unless, of course, you got a guy on the mound that can miss a lot of bats. And luckily for the Mets today, that's what McLean can do. So, he's kind of had his ups and downs over the last month here, but the swing and miss potential is there. You got a Reds team that strikes out a ton. If they're going to get a game, Greg, they are likely going to get this one, and I wouldn't go much past the 5 innings, though. I believe McLean outpitches Lodolo. I believe the Mets win the first 5.
Rays against the Dodgers today. It's a 3 p.m. Eastern game. This will be the marquee matchup in baseball, with Shohei Ohtani as of now looking like he's going against Shane McClanahan. The Dodgers are minus 184, total 7.5. So naturally, the big question is, how deep can Ohtani get? Remember the last time, Joe, that he pitched, he came out early and had a leg issue. So that's the diciness here, is knowing for sure what you're going to get today. I'm assuming they wouldn't throw him out there if he was 100%, but Ohtani kind of calls his own shots.
He does. And by the way, this series has been phenomenal. 1-0 again last night. It was 4-3 the night before. And McClanahan, certainly more than capable of limiting the Dodger lineup here. I like the under again here, Greg. I don't see a high-scoring series at all here, and certainly don't see one with these two on the mound.
And welcome back to the early line here on Sports Grid as we touch on some Major League Baseball. Thanks for waking up with us. It was a big night last night for the Seattle Mariners. In fact, they described it like opening day for Cal Raleigh, who missed basically a month, 33 days. It goes on the IL and delivers the game winner last night against the Orioles. Here is manager Dan Wilson on his star catcher returning.
Big key, to be honest with you. Just having fun with the game again, and he's an exceptional player. We all know that, and I think he found the joy of the game, and that's what's important. Seeing him out there tonight, he was in his glory. He was right where it's his sweet spot, running the game, getting a big hit. That's Cal, and that was an impressive night for him.
All right, so the Mariners get the win. The Milwaukee Brewers call up their young star Cooper Pratt. He makes his debut last night, Joe. He went 0 for 3, so he didn't get a hit, but he did make his debut 2.5 months after signing an 8-year, $50 million deal. He's going to play a lot of defense. He's going to play a lot of offense. Last night he batted near the bottom of the lineup, but he has a lot of speed, and that's what the Brewers are looking for, Joe. They generally have led the league in stolen bases all season long. They play a little small ball. They don't hit a lot of home runs, so he'll fit right in.
He was a Gold Glover on the minor league level. So defensively, he is an absolute vacuum at maybe the most important position in the middle infield there, Greg. So they're not expecting big things from him offensively, but defensively, he is more than Major League Baseball ready.
And he'll play quite a bit because the Brewers are always looking for those edge players, those players that can help them, as you said, yep. DRS, defensive run save. That's why he gets in the game. Cleveland Guardians make the official announcement yesterday that José Ramírez underwent surgery on his broken hamate bone. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, and that's generally the timeline for a player like this. Does feel like there's a chance he could come back before the All-Star break, but knowing how teams operate, he's probably going to just be out through it, give him a chance to do some rehab in the minors, Joe, and then come back right after. But unfortunately, he probably will represent Cleveland, I would guess, in Philadelphia at the All-Star game, but he's not going to play.
No, it's more important certainly later this year. They're in a division where if they can stay afloat while he gets the rehab, get him healthy, then get him back, because he is everything to that lineup and to that team. So let's see if they can stay afloat in the meantime. If they can, should be an interesting second half of the baseball season for sure.
Yep, that's right. Detroit and Kansas City, both with really bad first halves, which is basically keeping Cleveland right in the mix. Meanwhile, Aaron Boone, manager of the Yankees, backs his player, Jose Caballero. He's been backing his players for years. It doesn't matter what happens with Aaron Boone. He backs everybody. But Jose Caballero, in case you missed it, Joe, I don't know how closely you've been paying attention to this. What he's doing basically is, stepping in the box and putting his head down and not looking up until he absolutely has to without a disengagement at 8 seconds. And it's starting to get everybody upset. I guess it's within the rules, so he can do it. But what has happened here now, Joe, is that he's made every umpire really pay attention to him. And if it gets down to 7 seconds, now he's going to get a disengagement every single time.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. So the utility guy with the Yankees was the one to find the holes in the the loopholes, huh? And he's actually doing it now, Major League Baseball, and everyone's scrambling, trying to figure out how to stop. Come on, give me a break here. Kudos to him, because he obviously found some way to get under everybody's skin here, and that's what a great utility guy often does, though.
Yeah, a year ago we were a little bit more than a year ago, we were told torpedo bats were the next big thing. We haven't mentioned torpedo bats in 14 months. Anyway, the Yankees had them yesterday, I guess, because they destroyed the White Sox 12-2. Davis Martin, who's been fantastic for the White Sox, went down. He gave up 3 home runs in 3 1/3. He also gave up the first Yankee Stadium home run to Spencer Jones. Ben Rice went deep, so did Paul Goldschmidt. They got bad news yesterday on Giancarlo Stanton. He's going to miss a few more weeks with an injury. He's got that hamstring issue that's going to keep him out. And by the way, Davis Martin had a 2.41 earned run average, and now it's 3.31 after yesterday's output. Let's hear from Spencer Jones. This is on his first home run in the Bronx.
Yeah, I think, first time around is so much new experience, because you can visualize what the major leagues are going to be like, but until you're in there and you see it, the expectation and reality don't always match up. And that first go at it was just a lot of new information, a lot of new things, different routines, that kind of thing. And then I think having a couple weeks just to meditate on the things that were going on for my first call up, and certain actions, I think, for me on the fields, certain routine things, certain mentalities, certain approaches to the game, I was able to really focus on, and know that next time I get an opportunity, that I'll make the most out of it.
They also got a good pitching performance from Gerrit Cole, who seemingly is all the way back now from his injury, missed more than a year. Here is Cole on picking up the victory against the White Sox.
Overall, what do you think of your stuff tonight?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought the command got a little bit better as the game went on. I thought we kept him off balance and stayed in the strike zone well after getting a lead, and not too many mistakes, and just kind of lost the zone on the walks in the last inning.
In the offense, they're without some major bats in that offense, and they're still finding ways to get it done. Just overall, what have you thought of this offense?
It was obviously a great road trip. It's a good start to this homestand. They're putting a lot of pressure on the opponent with quality at bats up and down the lineup. They're using their individual strengths well, doing what they do well in the box, grinding out pitches, spoiling pitches, guys hitting for power, guys hitting behind runners. So it's dynamic in the sense that it can be deadly in a handful of different ways. So, and then the constant pressure has built up several times against the opposition where we've been able to score, put up crooked numbers.
The Yankees pitching has been great. Meanwhile, on the flip side, not much of a silver lining with the Marlins and Philadelphia Phillies last night. I kind of unfortunately saw this coming here the last couple of days. I did not see Philadelphia taking a 7-0 lead in the third inning, which is what they had on starter Tyler Phillips. They end up winning this one, Joe, 8-2. Miami has been fantastic in the month of June, but this is like one of the tougher places to play in baseball. And I know Sandy Alcantara will pitch for them today, but that's like kind of the guy you have to have in games in Philadelphia, or these could end up being sideways, and that's what happened quick yesterday.
And it happened quick in game one, too. Same thing. Very tough to play from behind in Philadelphia, and they kind of buried themselves early against Wheeler and, of course, against Luzardo yesterday. So they have the right guy on the mound today with Sandy going up against Painter, the rookie. This could be an opportunity to get one back.
All right. And finally, the New York Mets decided to call up Kodai Senga after his minor league sort of get-right stint. Here's how it went. First guy walked, second guy walked, third guy hit a home run. 3-0. Not good. 5-0 initially. And they end up losing 5-3. It feels like Carlos Mendoza's losing his mind a little bit. He got ejected during the game, and here he is.
Yeah. Carlos, what happened on the ejection?
It was a quick one there. Somebody say something from the dugout, and Carlos just threw someone out. Nobody knew who he was, and that's when I jumped out of the dugout. And obviously, I wasn't pleased with the strike zone, especially with that Benji at bat there. Went back and looked at some of the pitches, and I wasn't happy about it. Again, I understand that's a tough job there, but yeah, that was all to it.
The Mets never seemingly got right, Joe. What's more surprising to you here in the middle of June, that the Mets are done or the Red Sox are done? What would have been more surprising to you at the beginning of the season?
Well, the Mets, I think. I mean, because the Mets were true. The injuries started piling up early in spring training, and then excuses. I think the Red Sox told us they were going to be a hot mess.
Welcome back to the early line here on SportsGrid. Great to have you here with us. Joe Ranieri, of course, with me this morning, as well as Kevin Walsh. He's getting ready for another action-packed day of soccer at the World Cup. First match today at 1 p.m. Eastern. But before we get to that, let's get to some afternoon baseball as Kevin joins us. And we'll start off with the two great series that we have going on, White Sox, Yankees, Rays, and Dodgers. Let's begin right now, Kevin, with the Yankees and White Sox. This is always dangerous when a team gets hot offensively, and it seems like that's what's going on here for the Yankees. Even without Aaron Judge and even without Giancarlo Stanton, they managed to go deep several times yesterday. Spencer Jones, Ben Rice, and some others. And then you see the total reaction to the game today at 8.5 when the Yankees take on the White Sox today, but 12-2 yesterday. And so when a team like this starts to bat a little bit, and I know the Yankees are going to go through a stretch where they're not going to score and everyone's going to want to fire the manager, because that's what happens every year, and it'll happen this year too. But the total, as you see, is on the rise here, 8.5. Yeah, it may happen again. It may happen again. Yeah. It always does with them. They don't hit manager.
Except he's not been fired at any point during, a decade run here. So,
no, but he should have been, right? 10 years in a row.
Excellent job security for Aaron Boone. Look, I would actually lean under on the 8.5 with Rodon and Kay on the mound in this spot here. I think both guys probably due for solid performances in this spot. I do think that while the Yankees climbing back atop the AL East and then therefore the American League is noteworthy, the bigger story is just the White Sox stuff is still going on. This is a team who goes for consecutive series against the Dodgers and Yankees, and they took 2 out of 3 against LA. If they just avoid the sweep against the Yankees, like all of a sudden you go, all right, we just played 500 baseball with the 2 league favorites. The White Sox making the playoffs, like it gets realer and realer by the day.
Didn't have that on the bingo card, I'm not going to lie. Thought they'd be better than they were a year ago, but did not have the White Sox competing. That whole division is just absolutely a hot mess here. A lot of people didn't have the Rays being as good as they are either, and I got to tell you, the first 2 games against the Dodgers delivered. I mean, these 2 teams are a lot closer, I think, than people realize, and 1-0 last night, 4-3 the night before. Now you got the rubber match coming up here today. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I feel like the start to this series is really a bookmaker's dream where all the Dodger run line bets in an attempt to get a good price don't come in, but the Rays money line tickets are also losers. And you wonder, with the total this low, does that trend continue here? The Ohtani starts have been it's been outrageous. And then we had a 9-8 final in his most recent outing against Pittsburgh. They lost that game. It's hard for me not to think you work back towards an under, but the McClanahan previous 2 starts are interesting. He has given up 4 runs in each of his last 2 starts. He's now given up 4 earned runs in 3 of his last 5 starts here after being, looking, like a Cy Young-ish type candidate through the early portions of this season here. So is that early fatigue? Is it just some bad luck? It's tricky to tell, but it's certainly something to watch here. It's why I think the Dodgers, of course, Ohtani being a part of it, but it's why I think they're closer to that minus 200 range, despite McClanahan being the opposing pitcher.
You're very astute there, Kevin, because I saw McClanahan here in South Florida against the Marlins, and he looked very mortal and has since then. And this is going on now a couple of weeks, so we certainly will see. All right, let's take a look real quick, gentlemen, at the Cy Young race, which I think to me is the most compelling of any right now going. And it's very bizarre to me that I see these lines here. Now, Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm looking at this graphic here. Where is Ohtani on this graphic? He's got to be somewhere in the middle here. Okay, yeah, because we got Mizorowski at minus 165. Kevin, we have Christopher Sanchez. Yeah.
Ohtani's
So that's
40-1.
Yeah. So why is that the case? That's my point here. He dropped from 20 to 40 over the last week. Kevin, was that because of him coming out of the last game? Because he hasn't done anything to, I think, show that he should be any lower than Sale here. Isn't that where my value is? And by the way, Kevin, let me add one more thing. This is a long season. Who's to say that? Sanchez got blown up last time. Do we trust Miz throwing 105 miles an hour every time out? I still want Ohtani on my board.
So I think it's totally understandable to feel like Ohtani should have shorter odds. But what I think is specific to Ohtani is something, Craig, obviously you and I for a while were talking baseball every day.
Sure.
And there was a point when I was like, man, maybe Ohtani can do this. And then it was following, a really good start. I was like, he has no chance. The innings won't be there.
That's right.
Craig, he's over 30 innings back of Christopher Sanchez. 20 innings back of Mizorowski.
But it's still early.
But the gap's not going to get shorter for Ohtani. He's not.
You don't
going
know
to
that
have
though.
These 8 innings, 9 innings. Well, I think, Craig, though, realistically, if we're going to say, hey, maybe every guy in front of Ohtani is going to get hurt, well, then maybe Ohtani's going to get hurt, and we should really just be betting against him in the MVP market.
I agree with that too, but I guess my look. I don't think Ohtani's going to win. Okay. But what I do think is that it's very presumptuous to think that either Sanchez has gone deep into games and he's pitched 180 innings or whatever he has. But every player on that list outside of Yamamoto has gotten hurt in the last year. Every single one of them. So why can't I just assume that maybe it's a prediction market bet, Kevin? Maybe that's really maybe where I should be leaning toward. But I still can't give that up. As far as him winning, no, I agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't be betting Mizorowski at minus 165 because the track record isn't there of pitching as much as he's going to need to. I think the Sanchez bet is really, really appealing, but I do think that's just the Ohtani specific thing. I'm just curious for Mizorowski, is he now in a situation where that 300 strikeout benchmark could almost be the clincher?
Could be.
It's not something that we have seen in recent years. It's, the Scherzer, Sale, Kershaw. So it would be special if he can get it.
Definitely so. Great stuff as always, Kevin. We'll see you later this afternoon on In Game Live. Thanks again. Time now for our best bets. Let's play a little buy. Joe, you like the Nationals today?
Who likes the Royals on the road? They're terrible. I'll take the Nats here, money line, to get it done.
Mine will be Brian Reynolds, 2+ at plus 1,000. I'm undefeated this week, so this would be time to fade me probably. We'll be back with Prediction Markets Edge next. The Mets will take on the Reds today, and Kalshi is telling us that it's more or less a pick'em game, 54% on the Mets, 46% on the Reds. But, Joe, the Mets are going through it again here. They've lost 2 games in a row to the Cincinnati Reds. Their pitching can't get out of their own way. They probably have the better pitcher on the mound of the two. I don't know. I think you and I may see this game differently today. I think the Reds are going to sweep. Maybe you potentially like McLean on the mound, but I just don't know that it's going to matter.
I like McLean early here. And the beautiful thing about the Kalshi markets is that, yes, if you're looking at just game markets, you can split the game in half. You can go to the first five. You can go to the full game. But I think McLean is got the edge over a team that strikes out a lot. He has had his ups and downs over the last month, but I think he's the better pitcher of the two. And listen, the Mets, I don't think they're going to need a ton of runs early. I don't trust either bullpen. So I would go McLean early here and likely look at his K-prop up and over as well.
The Dodgers will take on the Rays as they finish off their series, and certainly this has been a fun, low-scoring, competitive one. Shohei Ohtani is expected to pitch for the Dodgers today. Last time he was out, he came out of the game early. 62% on LA today on the Kalshi market. Rays, 38%, Joe.
Yeah, it's this has been a fun series, kind of flying under the radar. And once again, unfortunately, all the value is going to be on Tampa. It's not going to be on the Dodgers. You're never going to find value on the Dodgers when Ohtani is on the mound here. But we have seen the money go the other way early. I tend to think maybe getting a run and a half might not be a bad idea here. Both games so far in the series have landed where one run separate them. I think maybe getting a run and a half with Tampa might not be a bad look here in this market.
Several games this afternoon in Major League Baseball over on Kalshi Poly Market, and of course your sports betting operators as well.